Welcome to Spotlight. I'm Rian Keating. Today we're delighted to have the opportunity to interview one of New York's finest singers, Julie Budd. Julie, welcome. I've admired your work for a long time. It's been said that you sang before you got out of your crib.
That's true. And I never got out of the crib. I did. Actually, you know how you have memories of when you were like really, really small?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I remember when I was a baby, making sounds. You know, and being very sensitive to sound. I suppose that's probably normal for someone who's born with an attribute where hearing is, and vocal is very important. I mean, if a child was born to be a dancer, probably was an active baby, you know, or developed. I don't know. Maybe that's not true.
Your mother had said that you spoke rhythmically when you started to talk.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's very strange, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. At what point did you start taking singing seriously? Or was it something that was just inherent?
I always took singing very seriously. Do you mean when did I study, or when did I know I was going to be in the business?
When did you know?
I always knew. It was very, very weird. I mean, I always knew. You know, when kids would write book reports, remember when you had to stand up and read your book report in school and you wanted to die, right? Well, I remember in like the second grade or something like that, when I had to do book reports and everybody had to stand up and read, I said, you know, somebody would say they're going to be a fireman, a nurse, a teacher, you know, all that stuff. I said I was going to be a singer, and you heard, hee, 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 you know, all that stuff. And I'm the only one that actually did what she said she wanted to do. That's the joke of the whole thing, you know. They're all still laughing, but I'm doing what I wanted to do, you know. It was funny.
Well, you used to buy original cast recordings and improvise. Did you find that it seems a lot of children who fantasize have unhappy peer relationships? Was that a problem with you at all?
I had a lot of friends. In fact, the funny thing about my growing up in Brooklyn is, I would say 90% of the kids that I grew up with didn't know that I was musical. I never told them. I mean, if I was going to listen to music, or I used to do Broadway shows for my father when he came home from work at night, put on these big shows for him, but none of my friends knew. And I never sang in school plays.
How were you able to keep it that secret?
It was my thing. It was it was strange for me. I never wanted to share it. In fact, even now, sometimes I like working at the act better than doing the act. I mean, I like the journey sometimes more than the destination. I don't know why.
I'm sure it gives you a sense of accomplishment.
I like the work process. You know, I really do. And I think when I was little, I knew that. I think I knew that.
How supportive were your parents of your singing? I mean, aside from performing for your father, did they take it seriously?
Not really. A lot of people think that if your parents don't support you, that they're not good parents. I don't think that's true. I think that parents react a lot of times out of fear, you know. They really want the best things for their kids. I mean, sometimes the best thing for their kid that they think is the best isn't necessarily, but they're usually working out of a motive that's sincere.
Right.
I think my parents were. I think that they had very, it was natural for them to be worried about putting a little kid in this business. I mean, like you say, you just said 5 minutes ago, they don't have normal relationships with kids. Well, I was lucky. I did. I had a lot of friends. But I mean, those are things that you have to consider, the development of your kid. And this is not a very healthy business. I mean, it can be, but it's hard to keep it healthy. And I think parents worry about that. And I think if they worry about it, they're good parents. So that's where my mother and father were really, really worried. They didn't want me to be a crazy kid, you know. But when they saw that my commitment was really, really great, they got behind me. But they were still worried. And I think they still worry now. Because I don't think your parents really ever stop worrying. I mean, do your parents get on the phone and say, you didn't eat today? You know, I mean.
Exactly.
It's funny. You could be 99. They think you don't know how to make an egg. It's so funny.
I guess that's just the way parents are. You first broke through in this business at the Tamarack Lodge in the Catskills when you entered a talent contest and decided to do an impression of Julie Andrews.
That's right. Me from Brooklyn doing an impersonation of Julie Andrews. Is that not sick?
With a Brooklyn accent.
With a Brooklyn accent. I mean, what nerve. I should have been sued.
Well, Well, the point is you won, and you came into contact with Herb Bernstein at that time.
Herbie didn't want anything to do with me. Why does anybody ever want to have anything to do with me? But Herbie didn't want to have anything to do with me. And not because he didn't think I was talented, but Herbie's impression was, oh, God, another kid that sings. You know? You know, it's true, right? You meet them every day. They sing at bar mitzvahs and weddings, and, you know, their parents think they're great. The MC at the talent show knew me, and he told me that there was a man by the name of Herb Bernstein, and I should call him. He was staying in the cabins or something. At the end of the summer, I called Herbie, and I invited him to the talent show. He was very, very reluctant about coming, but I was very, very persistent about getting him there. You know? And anyway, so I finally got Herbie at the show, and he really liked it, and he came backstage. And I remember he seemed so big to me. I was such a little kid at the time, you know. And I looked up at him, and I said, oh, Mr. Bernstein, do you like it? Was it okay, you know? And he looked at me, and he said, oh, it was wonderful. He said, I'd really like to cut a demonstration record with you. Now, my parents did not know I was doing this show. I mean, my mother never went to the shows. My father used to come up to Tamarack on the weekends, because during the week he was working in the city, so it was a Friday night. He was not up there yet. So as far as they were concerned, I was in camp. You know, I mean, they didn't know what I was doing. It was pretty bizarre. So when I finally told my father that I met this Herb Bernstein who wants to cut a demonstration record on me, I thought my father was going to shoot him, you know. And I begged him, and I said, oh, Daddy, please, you know, get behind me with this one, you know. And he kind of just looked at me like, well, all right, it's a stage. She's going through a stage. It's been a very long stage.
At what point were they able to come to terms with the fact that you were 12 years old and you were going to have a career?
I don't know. What time is it? No, my parents are really terrific. I'm very fortunate. I mean, listen, how could my life not be terrific? I've got two beautiful sisters that are very, very supportive. My grandparents lived in my house. Things were always terrific, you know. My grandparents always got along. We were a big family. My parents are very educated, bright, supportive people. I've always had a lot of friends. I can't complain about how things have turned out. I have a wonderful husband. I mean, if my career was going to end tomorrow, I would feel very, very at loss with a part of myself, because my craft is a tremendous part of myself. But I'm very, very lucky because I have other things that a lot of people have not developed in their life. And it's unfortunate. They have everything, but they have nothing in a sense, you know.
Well, I guess it's always good to have something to fall back on. I know you're very interested in psychology and psychotherapy.
Yeah.
How did that evolve?
I don't know. I think that this business that we're in is one where you're always analyzing, whether it's before an audience or at an interview, or as an actress. Somehow or another, I don't know, it seems to cross that kind of interest, the constant human contact, the fact that you're under a tremendous stress factor all the time in this business, and you're always self-analyzing.
When you were growing up, you know, in your teen years, when all of a sudden you were, as you said, getting an on-the-job education, were you aware of the stress? At that point, was there a lot of pressure?
I don't know.
Or was it just fun?
I thought, isn't this the way it is? You know, I had a very kind of nonchalant attitude. As I got older, I think I was more aware of stress factor. I don't know why that happens when you get older. Why do you think that happens when you get older?
I think there could be a naivety involved.
You mean when you're younger? Yeah, maybe.
When you're a child. Which brings me to another point that I did want to bring up. Janice Ian wrote a wonderful song called Stars. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but one of the lines go, some make it when they're young, before the world has done its dirty job. Then later on someone will say, you've had your day, now you must make way. Did you find it hard transcending the child star image and being taken seriously as an adult?
I can hear what you're saying. I think that what you're saying has a lot of merit for someone who, when they were children, were doing kiddie stuff. I didn't do that. When I was little, when I was a kid, I was doing very sophisticated music. I wasn't doing, you know, the bubblegum pop rock kind of thing that kids do. So there was a sophistication to the work, which put me in another category. Yeah, I was young and I was doing that, but I was working on another level. I was working on the level that people in their 20s and 30s work at. So I didn't feel, by the time I turned 18 or 20 or 22 or whatever, that I had to make this tremendous transition with an audience about how serious I was musically or, you know, image or that kind of a thing. I mean, it was apparent I was a kid and then I grew up. That's fine. I'm just speaking in terms of the music. Is that what you mean? Are you speaking in terms of the music?
Well, the music and dealing with a career.
Oh, I never had that much pressure in the career. Not until I got older and started making my own decisions. And then realizing, oh my God, this is what it's really about, you know?
And Herb Bernstein has been with you all these years.
Yeah.
When
you get them good, you stay with them. You don't let them go.
As you've grown older, have you noticed a change in that relationship?
I've noticed a big change in Herbie. Well, maybe Herbie didn't change so much. Maybe I changed. You know, I'm looking at him through different eyes now, so, yeah. Everybody looks different to me as I get older, you know?
Your most important exposure during your teenage years was on the Merv Griffin show. How did that change your perception of being a singer?
Even now. I mean, everything I do, I always do that show first. But what did you just ask me?
How did it change your perception of being a singer? Did it legitimize your career to any extent?
Well, you know, the television is a very powerful instrument. I mean, you don't even have to be good. You're constantly on the tube.
Absolutely.
People think you are, you know. It's a very, very powerful, powerful thing, that television, you know. So naturally, I mean, being on television changed a lot. I mean, all of a sudden, people started to know who I was. I would take the train to school, and people would tap me on the shoulder, and I'd turn around, and they'd say, and it's like everybody knew me. The night after I would do this show, everybody knew me. It's a strange thing to have strangers come up to you and talk to you about things in your life. It's just very strange.
How were you able to deal with it at that age?
Well, I was a very open kid, you know, so I just kind of, you know, I was fine about it. Sometimes I think that it must be very strange for people. I work with people like Bob Hope. Who doesn't know Bob Hope? If you're living in a cave, maybe you don't know who he is, you know? But it's got to be very strange for him to always have the eyes on it. I don't know, maybe he's so used to it, it doesn't matter anymore, but it's got to be a little